Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Walker. I'm the head of insights at Carta and super excited to spend an hour with you this morning going over everything we know about pre-seed fundraising data with one of the best in the business. So I'm going to welcome her up on stage. Haley Bryant of Hustle Fund, is joining us this morning. Haley, how are you doing?
Hey, Peter, doing great. I was waiting to see you pop up in that intro video, but excited to be here live with you instead and to dig into some data today.
It was a fun time watching them film that through the cafeteria of Carta for a while, but it was beautifully done. I love that intro. All right, everyone, just a couple logistics points. The chat is open. Throw questions in there. You can also throw them into the Q&A section, which is the question mark over on the right. We're going to try to get to as many as possible, although we did get about 50 or 60 pre-submitted questions as well. So if we don't get to your question, please don't take it out on us. You can actually email me or follow me on LinkedIn and shoot me that question as well, and I'm happy to answer it there. So today we're going to talk about pre-seed funding benchmarks. Obviously, there are a lot of definitions for pre-seed. We're going to go over how we talk about it here at Carta, and then we're going to get Haley's opinion on all of the wonderful trends that we're showing through this data. This is the latest possible data that you can have. Q1 just closed, and we're already coming to you with the freshest numbers. All of this data, by the way, apologies to any international founders on the call. This is all US data. There is a bit of a bias towards Silicon Valley. That's where a ton of companies are located. But we're trying to get some pre-seed data, some early stage data for international locations as well over time. Hopefully we can bring that to you soon. First things first, don't worry. You'll get all of this data in your inbox when the report actually launches on April 16th. So no need to lift a finger. You can expect that in your inbox very soon. And for those of you that haven't joined already, be sure to check out Carta Launch, the home, as we call it, of pre-seed startups, completely free until you raise your first $1 million. All of our best cap table features there. You can issue equity, you can raise safes, you can have a private data room. Everything and anything that you could need as an early stage startup, you'll find on Carta Launch. More than 15,000 startups have already used it to get their businesses going. So please check that out if you haven't already. Okay, so into the data. I think it'll probably surprise none of you on the call that safes have come to dominate what we consider pre-seed investing. So the black line in these charts is the percentage of safes. The blue line is the percentage of convertible notes. The total companies on the left, total funding on the right, but the picture is essentially the same no matter what statistic you look at. Safes are the default way to bring money into an early stage business. Haley, I wonder, have you done any deals lately that weren't on safes?
I did recently look at a convertible note deal, but it's pretty rare. We tend to see them more coming from the Midwest. But safes are standard and specifically post-money safes.
Yeah, well said. There are, as Haley just mentioned, there are some industries in which and locations in which convertible notes are still a decent portion of the total pre-seed volume. To Marie's question in the chat, yes, there's a little bit of regional flavor to this. Midwest companies tend to raise a little bit more on convertible notes, but to be honest, the safe just keeps eating total pie, total percentages as the years go by. So as you can see, places like medical devices, hardware, etc., those tend to be a little bit more convertible note focused. But by and large, basically everyone who's starting a startup is going to fund through a safe before they get to priced rounds. Corey, to your question, we actually consider priced rounds to be separate from pre-seed. So we don't actually consider any priced data to be a pre-seed fundraise. Some people might have a different definition, but I think it's probably a bit, usually pre-seed is going to mean any sort of convertible instrument, either safe or note. So let's get into the kinds of safes that we're seeing. Post-money safes are by far the most common. That's the blue bar that you see in the chart that we're showing now. About 83% of safes signed so far in 2024 have been post-money. The rest are pre-money, that green bar. I'll let you all decide when YC switched from the pre-money as the default to the post-money as the default. No surprises here. It was in actually late 2019, I believe, but early 2020. And since then, everyone has kind of followed along Haley, I wonder, from an investor perspective, do you sign or pre-money safes, or is that really not even mostly in the discussion anymore?
It's pretty rare. I've only done one in my limited tenure as a VC. The main downside of pre-money safes is that they're fairly confusing. Investors don't know how much ownership they're getting. And while as an early stage fund, Hustle Fund doesn't particularly focus on ownership, we more so focus on getting in super early. Many investors do have targets. So if you're raising pre-money of say 5 million, and then you want to raise anywhere between 1 and 3 million, it's harder for investors to know how much they're actually going to have when the raise is closed. So I think post-money is much more common.
Yeah, agreed. I think post-money, while it is in some ways investor friendly, it also guarantees, because it has that certainty attached to it where you can actually understand how much of the company you're selling. In some ways, it is also founder friendly because it just clarifies for everyone, and it doesn't actually rely on a future event to understand the economics. So yes, post money is not a bad thing. There is, we'll maybe talk a little bit later about the special one that YC uses sometimes, but we can get into that in a bit. So the two main terms alongside a safe, of course, valuation cap and discount. We can get into what those terms mean and how they're used. But in this chart, you can see the blue bar is safes signed with a valuation cap only. The green bar is valuation cap plus a discount, because you can use both of those terms simultaneously. And if you add up the blue and green in this chart, you'll note it's basically 90% or so of safes have a valuation cap of some kind. So val cap is the thing that you're going to probably discuss with your investors. It's going to be the term that's definitely on your safe. And then discount kind of comes and goes. Although you'll note in 2024, discounts did make a little bit of a comeback. Maybe that's, investors can sort of have a little bit more of an upper hand these days. They can ask for both terms, and that can define the downside for the investors rather than, essentially it sets a floor underneath which the investors will make sure that they're remunerated for taking this early bet.
Right, because they'll either get to convert at, say, like 10 million post, or if it ends up being, if the safe ends up converting at a lower valuation, then they would get a discount, a 20% discount for still being that early believer. They still are incentivized for that. The discount only, Peter, is that for uncapped notes specifically?
So those are safes, but there are some safes that are being signed at discount only. That's the orange slice in this. The purple is like MFN, no discount, no val cap, just your mom or dad essentially being like really kind. That's for everyone on the call. If you don't have a valuation cap or a discount on the safe, what that investor is doing is basically giving you money now and taking terms that might not come up for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. So that's a very, very friendly deal, and it's not one that you should expect.
For founders, friendly for founders, but actually very difficult to convince investors to take. So I would agree, it's probably mom or dad that's signing that paperwork.
Yes, exactly. So the question we get most often, what should my valuation cap be? How do I set my valuation cap? There's a lot of different opinions here, a lot of different ways to think about it. But the one thing that I want to impress on founders on the call today is that the amount you raise and your valuation cap taken together dictate the amount of dilution or implied dilution, because you're not actually selling equity quite yet, you're going to take on in a fundraising round. So if we just look at this chart, if you are raising between $250,000 and $500,000 on a safe, the median valuation cap for your safes in the US today is 7 million. If you're going to raise from 500 to a million, it's about 8 to 10 million as a val cap. And then you can see it climbs up. There are safe rounds that are signed for 2.5 million. There are safe rounds that come in at $5 million or more. Those are essentially seed rounds that are just being done through safes. But the point that I'll make again here is that you should be cautious, or you should be careful about how your valuation cap changes depending on the amount that you need to raise, which probably dictates, and Haley, correct me if I'm wrong here, the first question you should be asking yourself is, how much money do I actually need, right? That is where all of this starts. And then you can talk about valuation caps and dilution, but you want to work backwards from the amount the dollars that you need in the door in order to get to the milestones that you want to reach.
Totally agree. Work backwards and also work forwards, thinking a few rounds ahead. And we can talk about this more, but what we see often at pre-seed is not a single raise, it's multiple raises on a safe. There are pros and cons to that. So you may only need to raise $250K for that first tranche of capital. So you're fine to raise it at a very low valuation, a 2.5, a 5 million. As you de-risk the business, you can raise the remainder of that pre-seed round at a higher valuation cap. So don't necessarily get fixed on that 10 million post you're targeting for that initial tranche, but happy to talk about that more.